What's up, YouTube? Welcome everybody back to the channel. On today's episode, I'm gonna show you how one small part can ruin your day as a Hellcat owner. So jump right into it. This small little part right here could ruin your day. And I know it don't look like much, but if you heard that, that is magnetic. And if you know anything about magnetic plugs, you know that they usually go to drains or drain bolts. So let me jump right into it. So after the drag strip, I've been trying to line up with him all day. Headed home, everything was cool. Trackhawk sat for like 2 days, and I wanted to wash the Mustang because the Mustang was filthy. So I pulled the Mustang out back, started washing it, got that done. Then it was the Trackhawk's time. Pulled the Trackhawk around back, came back in the garage for some soap, and I noticed there was some green fluid on the ground. Let me grab my light and I'll try to show you. I didn't wipe it up yet. So when the Trackhawk was in the back, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll put a picture of what it looked like when I was standing over it. There was that green fluid. Well, I knew that wasn't good, but I didn't know what the green fluid was from. As far as I knew, I didn't know of anything that took green fluid, and it wasn't an antifreeze, because I picked it up and I rubbed it on my fingers and it was an oil. So I was a little bit stumped. So I text Jessica and John from Simple Speed and Performance, where I got my trans and transfer case from, and I asked her, I said, hey, do you have any idea what this is from? Because where I found the bolt, and this is the good part, I found the bolt. This little bolt was connected right underneath the Trackhawk. I'll insert a picture. It was connected right underneath here. And that's the only reason I found it. Luckily, it was connected to there. I would have had no clue, because this was the only clue as to what this was from and where it went. If I didn't have this bolt, I think nobody would have guessed where the green fluid was coming from. So back into the story. Jessica got back to me super quick and was like, hey, the transfer case fluid is bright red and the trans fluid is light brown. So the green fluid is not from the transfer case. So now I was even more stumped. The last service that I had provided on the Trackhawk was the front differential change at the dealership. So my next guess is it's got to have something to do with the diff, even though I looked underneath and the diff drain plug was there. I was like, maybe it's something on the side or something like that. So the next day I drove I called them first and I said, hey, I got a service done. I got this green fluid. They're like, bring it in, we'll check it out. So I drove the Trackhawk up there. They put me right on the lift and they're looking around, and they called me back there, and the tech was like, listen, man, the front differential fluid is not green. It's like a clear yellowish color. And he poured some on the ground, and he was like, look, man, he's like, the only green fluid is transmission, so you need to call your trans people and see what is going around. It's got to be from the trans. Well, I knew it wasn't, because Jessica and John, they don't mess around. They would not know what color fluid they put in their transmission. So back to being stumped. So I messaged Andy, or I emailed Andy from Livernois Motorsports, and he was like, just by looking at the bolt, he's like, I can't really tell you what it's to. So he's like, bring it in on Monday. Mind you, all this happened on Friday. He was like, bring it in on Monday and we'll check it out. Well, I don't have no patience for that. I was gonna bring it in, but I didn't stop looking myself. I wanted to try to figure out myself, and I didn't want to bother them in the first place. So I kept looking, and I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of smarter people out there than me, especially on these Trackhawk and Hellcat platforms. And I'm a part of some Hellcat Trackhawk platform groups on Facebook. So I just put the question in there. I said, hey, what's going on? Can anybody identify this bolt? I have this green fluid on the floor. And in 5 minutes or less, somebody answered. That goes to the back of the Supercharger. It's the vent bolt. So I'm like, no way. So what I did is I ran up to AutoZone, and if you work on your own cars, this is something really handy to get, is this little mirror. All right? This little mirror is great. So all I did is I took a light and I put it back here, and I found where the bolt went to. I also researched some Hellcat Supercharger pictures on Google. I just typed in, you know, back of Hellcat Supercharger or IHI Supercharger, which is what these are, if you don't know. And they came right up, and I'll insert a picture of what the back of the Supercharger looks like here. And from that picture, I was able to gather where that bolt came from. So I'm like, okay, cool. I could probably just refill it. If it's like a transfer case or front differential, you just fill it until it overflows out of the top, and then you know it's good, it's full. But with superchargers, it's not like that. They have a specific level, and if you overfill them, it can actually cause damage. So there's not a lot of information on, you know, how much fluid to put in there or how to like drain these and this, that, whatever. So I called the dealership and I said, hey, or actually I went up to the dealership and I'm like, hey, since I found out what the bolt was, can you do a fluid change on this for me? Because I mean, they're more well versed in how to do it. They're professionals, and you know, they're gonna stand behind their work as opposed to me messing something up maybe. So they're like, yeah, you know, we'll get you on the schedule for sometime next week. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to hit the drag strip on Wednesday. Is there any way you can get me in before then? And she's like, you know what, come in 7:30 in the morning on Monday and we'll get you taken care of. I'm like, perfect. Gonna be able to hit the drag strip, make another bad video and put that out. As soon as I got home and she called me, wouldn't you know, they do not service the Trackhawk Superchargers. For whatever reason, Mopar put out a bulletin about these Trackhawk Superchargers not to service them. I don't know if it's because they say they have a lifetime fluid or what the deal is, but, and here's the crazy thing, is that they will service a TRX Supercharger, but they won't do it on a Trackhawk, which I don't know the rationale behind that. Probably because what you have to do to change the fluid in these. I don't know if it's a little bit different on a Trackhawk Supercharger. I don't think it is. My good buddy Rob, he is about to give me a basically brand new Supercharger from a TRX, which has some like bad parts on it. So shout out to you, Rob. I appreciate you a lot. And he's giving it to me for free. So I'm gonna have that brand new TRX Supercharger just in case. I think what I'm gonna do is fix out the little problems that are wrong with it and then send it out to be ported and polished and get everything like race ported. So maybe just switch out mine for that. We'll see what happens. Because this thing is on, like this thing is pushing so much boost and we're spinning so fast, it can let go at any moment. So it's good to have a backup supercharger, and it's good to have a good friend like my buddy Rob. So shout out to you again, brother. So back to the story. So as soon as I get home, she calls me and tells me that they don't service the Supercharger, which is disappointing because then I know that I'm either have to have Livernois Motorsports do it or just do it myself. And the thing about Livernois Motorsports is they're busy. You know, they get really busy, and I hate going in there and, you know, demanding or asking to be put at the front of the line. That's really not my thing. So you know what? I was like, you know what? I'm gonna attempt to do this myself. Everybody I called and talked to said it's not that hard. So what I'm gonna have to do, and what you have to do to refill the supercharger oil in these, you actually have to take the superchargers off. And to do that, like I said, it's not too hard of a process, but it is tedious, some of the things you have to do. Like you have to take off this rear cowl, obviously this, and you even have to take off the windshield wipers and the windshield wiper motor. But I plan on making a video about that because I did notice that with the Hellcat Supercharger removal and the Trackhawk Superchargers, there's a little things that are a little bit different. So that's what's going on with the Trackhawk. Luckily I caught it. Hopefully there is no damage because like I said, I did drive it home all the way from the drag strip with that bolt probably missing. So I am a little bit worried about there being damage done to it, but we're gonna refill it. Oh, and here's the other thing too. I could not get the dealership to sell me any of the fluid for whatever reason. You know, when you go to the dealership, they just ask you, what's your last 8 of your VIN number? So I've been there so many times, I know my last eight of my VIN number by heart. So I give it to him and he's like, I can't find it. It's not coming up. And then I'm like, well, I know you guys have the oil, because when I asked her about putting me on the schedule to service, I asked them, are you guys sure you have the fluid in the back? Because if not, I was gonna try to find it myself. And she guaranteed me, she made a call right then and then when I asked her, that they had the fluid. So I know they have the fluid back there. Is it different on the TRXs? I wouldn't think so. So I tried to get him to sell me the fluid, but he couldn't because he couldn't find a part number. Now my buddy Rob did suggest, hey, they had a TRX in the showroom. So he's like, hey, just grab the last 8 off that VIN and see if it pulls out a part number for the fluid. So I might try to do that on Monday and see if I can get that fluid. I was also able to ask another question in that Facebook Trackhawk group if they could, where I could find any fluid, and I did find a fluid from another company. I'll put up their website right here. Supposedly this website is supposed to sell a better fluid that makes like 7 more horsepower. We'll see. The only problem is I'm gonna have to wait. If I can get the fluid from the dealership on Monday, then hopefully I can have this all back together before Wednesday and we can take it to the drag strip for another drag strip video. If not, I'm gonna have to wait for the fluid to get here, which hopefully it gets here by next week, pour it all in, and there is a process. Like, you would think that you would be able to fill the supercharger oil from the top and everything like that, but you're not able to. That's why you have to take it off, is because you actually have to flip the supercharger up at a 45-degree angle when you fill it, and you have to fill it from the bottom hole on the supercharger, not the top one where that bolt came from. This bolt is more like a vent bolt, which is weird because it's magnetic. I don't get it, but they say that you can't fill the supercharger from that because you can actually get the oil in these vents, and it's gonna make your supercharger look like it's leaking. So that's what's going on with the 1,000 horsepower Trackhawk. I always tell people, man, like, and Andy told me this as soon as I modded it over 900. He said, you want to make 1,000 horsepower, you're gonna have 1,000 horsepower problems. Weird things happen to these once you start making a lot of power. You got a lot of boost pressure, weird things. So I always tell everybody, just get the Livernois. I think it's the 950 or 975 package. You make a little over 800 of the wheel. Pump gas on 93. You could put a little bit of race gas in there if you want. If you're going out to race it at the track or in Mexico, that's what I would suggest. But I got buddies that have that package and they run it on 93 pump gas, and they kill it in the competition. So just be wary when you're gonna mod these to a big time horsepower. Weird things happen. So the next video is either gonna be removal and install video, because there's not a real detailed video about how to remove these. I mean, there is like with the snout, but nothing really detailed on removing the superchargers. And I want to make a great in detail removal and install video so everybody can do this at home and don't have to pay a performance shop or a dealership. So I'm gonna try to get everything right. I'm gonna even try to look up the torque specs. Hopefully I can find everything, but that's gonna be it for this video. Maybe I'll make another video with the Mustang, an action video, just to keep you guys entertained. But for right now, the Trackhawk is down again. And this is like the 4th time. I swear that this Trackhawk has been down more than I've had it running. But my only real concern is that nothing's wrong with the supercharger, so we can just get it back out there and run it. Because like I said, I did drive it home and that bolt was probably gone. It might have came loose at the track, I don't know. That's the thing. And I did drive it to the dealership as well. So hopefully nothing's messed up. I'm hoping that it's not, since this isn't the legit drain bolt. Even though they say these superchargers, the oil capacity is like 6. Some places say 8. I need to get a clear answer on what that is, about how much fluid they take. There was about, I don't know, I mean, it's all over the frame too. I would have to guess there's at least 4 ounces of fluid that was on the ground and all up in the frame. So we're gonna get back on the road. I just want to remind everybody, even though these problems popped up and it can get you down and maybe think, you know, make you want to sell one of these, or problems come up to challenge you, challenge who you are as a man, as a woman, as a person, to challenge your resolve. Do not let that bother you. Everything happens for a reason. Even if you think at the time that, you know, it can't be any worse, you know, and when life likes to hit you when you're down, hit back. Get up and hit back. Do not let life beat you down. Keep pushing forward. Focus on your goals, and don't let anything stop you. So until next time, everybody, stay blessed.